Hello and welcome to College Bettas. Today we'll be starting off the Beta Care series. In this series we'll be diving into how to set up a proper beta tank as well as picking out a healthy beta. Videos will be coming out every Friday, and if you have suggestions please comment down below or message me on Instagram. Today we'll be starting off with the 10 most common myths about betas. Most of these myths have been around for a very long time and stem from misunderstanding. Because these myths are so common, many times people in pet stores will believe the information and pass it on. This isn't to say they're completely at fault, but hopefully as more people see the truth, things will start changing. First, betas come from dirty mud puddles, therefore they need no filtration. Beta splendens are originally from the Mekong Basin in Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand, where they live in the floodplains, canals, and rice paddies. Although betas can become stuck in puddles, they usually jump from puddle to puddle until they get to a larger body of water or they die. You don't want there to be too much flow in an aquarium, but betas do need filtration to keep their tanks clean. Second, because they live in puddles, they cannot live in tanks larger than 5 gallons. Because they come from floodplains, it is common to hear that betas prefer a small dirty aquarium, but this is not accurate as betas usually have a 3-foot territory. The most common rule is that betas need a tank that is at least 2.5 gallons, but some people push for betas to have at least 5 gallons. Third, betas eat plant roots. In the wild, betas eat zooplankton and mosquitoes. It is very rare for betas in the wild to eat plant matter, but sometimes in the aquarium they will pick at floating plants if they are very hungry. It is usually recommended for betas to get foods high in protein that are mostly meat. Fourth, males cannot be kept with other males. This is actually our first true statement. Betas were first taken from the wild sometime in the 18th century and were used in fighting. In the mid-19th century, beta fights were very popular and even endorsed by the King of Thailand. Today, beta fights are not as popular, and betas are bred for color and tail type rather than their fighting abilities. But because they are originally bred for fighting, betas in the aquarium are typically more aggressive than in the wild and cannot be kept together. Fifth, betas are not community fish. This is sort of true. Some betas do not do well in the community setting and will chase other fish or invertebrates and possibly kill them. For beginners, I would recommend not adding tank mates. If you do want to add tank mates, be sure to have an extra tank in case it doesn't go well, and keep a very close eye on the beta's actions for the next week. Sixth, betas don't need a heater. The weather in the Mekong Valley is usually around 78 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 to 38 degrees Celsius. Because the air is so warm, the water is typically around 78 degrees. The only way to reach this temperature is to either heat the room around the tanks to around 70 to 80 degrees or to use a heater. Seventh, if a beta builds a bubble nest, it must be happy. This is also sort of true. Male betas build bubble nests when they are ready to mate. A male will prefer a better environment where he feels comfortable and happy, but may build nests in a very bad condition. A male may also build a nest just because he sees a female, which in turn makes the female start producing eggs, which is why females and males need to be kept separate. Eighth, pet store betas are wild caught. Wild betas look like this. As mentioned before, betas were originally bred for fighting and were later bred for their color and tail types. There are beta splendens in the wild, but they don't look like what you can find on the shelf at the pet store. Ninth, betas are not very active. Some betas are not very active, but usually if a beta is not very active, it is because they are not receiving proper care. If your beta isn't active, I would make sure your water temperature is warm enough, and that the parameters, which we'll talk about in a later video, are perfect. 10th, betas should only be fed once or twice a week. Betas should be fed every day because of how active they are. The only reason a beta wouldn't be fed daily would be if they're being fed a low-quality food or if they are prone to bloating. So those are the 10 most common myths about betas. If you have heard any other myths, feel free to comment down below. Also, let me know down below what you would like to see more of in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe and join us next week for a video on my organization and tank setups.